Welcome to a podcast celebrating Scottish culture and entertainment, which is here to sing the praises of books, films, comedy, music, theatre, exhibitions, telly, poetry, and all that jazz. I'm Nicola Meighan. I'm an arts writer and broadcaster, and I'll give you the lowdown on what's coming up, what's happening now, what came before, and what we love, which is to say that every week I'm here to give you a kick up the arts. I'm joined for a blether by brilliant guests in fab art spaces around the country, and this week I am thrilled to be in the company of two punk and pop superheroes at Glasgow's street-level Photoworks. Grahame Skinner's bands include Hipsway, Jazzateers and the Cowboy Mouth, and Bobby Bluebell of the Bluebells, among other wonders, is the man behind hits like Young at Heart and Cath, Texas co-writes like Summer Sun and Black Eyed Boy, and he is also responsible for this, the podcast's first ever theme song. How about that?
The case a kick up the
Now, in theory, I met up with Bobby and Grahame to chat about their gorgeous collaboration, The Golden Trees, Scottish Songs Observed Volume 1, which was variously inspired by old family parties, golfing expeditions, and Grant Stott's vinyl collective On the Wireless. But we also touched on Secret Coast Songwriters, the legend that is Johnny McElhone of Altered Images, Hipsway and Texas, and that time when Grahame was Candi Staton's very dapper driver. It's all right here. So I was listening to The Golden Tree on the way through, as I have done, Volume 1. And it got me thinking, because I've known you both for so long, but I don't know where you two first met, where and when. What do you remember about first seeing Skin, Bobby Bluebell?
I knew Skin before my first memory, if that makes sense, but my first conversation with Grahame when he was in a band, real conversation, he was in a band called Kites, and I believe you were supporting us.
We supported you at Night Moves.
Yeah, and that's when we had a really, because I knew you worked in the bars and good-looking guy, and everybody knew in Glasgow.
Everybody knew he was a good-looking guy.
The first time we had a conversation was when he was supporting the Kites, because that's what bands do.
Totally.
They sound check and chat. So that was really like my first impression of him, you know.
Do you remember being asked to support? Was this Bluebells at this
yes,
point? Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, a lot of the band's business came about through Harry, who played drums, who was also the drummer on Hipsway, and very much one of the main lyricists in Hipsway. So he was like, he knew everybody, a bit like Mr. Bluebell here. And he knew Jerry, who ended up managing us, and then he knew Claire and stuff like that. And we both worked in the Rock Garden.
Okay.
So I kind of got to know lots of people just from working in the Rock Garden. And there was just always something. We rehearsed next door to Del Amici.
Yeah. Okay.
Literally the next room, and upstairs, Blythe Duff and James Grant were in a theatre group.
Really?
And we saw them the other night, and it's just like that's how tight all this sort of situation was.
I do love that sense of community that you've just described way back when absolutely resonates to this day, right? These are still the characters who are here and enlivening theatre and music, as well as all the young voices. That's not left any of you.
No, the thing that I think that has changed as we've got older is when we were 16 and 17, underage drinking was a big thing in Glasgow.
Yeah.
I don't know if it still is. I think it's different. I think that the clubs are better organised and ID and stuff. But then
ID's a bit harder to come by now.
It was, and then also back then there was no phones. So if you said you're going to meet someone, you had to go yourself.
Yeah.
And then you learn to be, in my case particularly, like independent. So I had to make friends. You know what I mean? And I was from a different part, and that's how we all met. Mentioned the Spaghetti Factory, the Rock Garden, cul-de-sac. Nico's. It was a certain circuit that we all done. So if you went to one pub and no one was there, you kind of knew, well, I'll go to the next one, and
you could
be someone there.
I would only arrange to meet maybe one or two people,
Uh-huh.
and then because you knew you'd meet somebody.
You'd bump into folk.
So it didn't matter, and if they couldn't make it, it didn't matter. You still went out and you'd bump into the same, most of the same people.
Most people in the same
places. Right, where's
places.
the party tonight? So
it was always back to someone's house afterwards, virtually,
what's it? Once the socialising starts, whoever wants it to end. Do you remember that first gig then, Grahame, with supporting the
I
Bluebells?
remember that. I mean, we had a set of songs, probably half an hour worth of songs. It was all our own stuff, but we always used to do this thing, like which I stole off Ian McElhone, the Bunnymen, where you sing other people's songs at the end. So we would do like we'd go into like an Orange Juice song or a Doors song or like. But we actually started the set, I think, with a sort of quoted the MC5, like you know that, and I can't even remember it. You know that thing when he shut, he's like, "Any motherfucker,
Yeah, kick out the jams.
Kick out the
just like
jams.
kick out the jams, man." Right, that. So I remembered it back then, and I can't remember it now. But I think that's how we started the set.
Right,
So.
okay. And did you just kind of hit it off? Was that you in touch after that, the pair of you?
Not so much. Like, I think by that point, it was like we were touring a lot and leaving. We weren't in Glasgow so much. I think I was still maybe in London.
You were away a lot.
Yeah,
most of the
yeah.
time.
And so it was really people like my gang was like Grahame said, Johnny and Claire Grogan and Jerry, and then Russell. So they were like the year below us at school, as we called it. Do you know what I mean? Like they were like
the young team.
Yeah. And so we felt very protective towards. I mean, Harry was an absolute darling, like as Grahame was saying earlier on, like he was like a big kid. He always reminds me of that guy and that actor, like John Cusack. Like he was he had that kind of like look in his face. This is just amazing,
like in High Fidelity or something.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
exactly that.
Force of nature.
Yeah, and whereas we were all a bit more. I think fake confidence is a great thing, but we were all pretty much. Established in cause like Grahame was saying, he was working in the really cool bars, and then we didn't have to wait in any queues or we'll wait to get served. Like it was already like that for a lot of bands.
Known.
Yeah.
I love you used that phrase. Fake confidence is a great thing because it really, really is, right?
It is totally
if you
fake.
can manage to kind of convince yourself to go out there, and you can pretend, eventually. It works.
It does.
I remember you saying a similar thing about becoming Skin, Grahame, and having a persona on
it's
stage.
like a persona, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you can get that, and it's not fake, but it is pretending to the point where you can do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying anybody else's words. I'm not like. Also, like something that Bobby was saying. Just, I thought about this before, but like, there's key points in my life, I've sort of moved house and had to make friends again.
Yeah.
And so I've always been okay at doing that quite easily. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But it's a useful skill, I can tell you.
It's out of necessity. If you moved house, you had to make friends again. You've got to get by, right? Or you're going into a gig and maybe you're on your own.
Yeah.
Even if it's within a circle of people you kind of know, you've got to go, right, okay, I'm going to go up and say hi.
Yes.
It's going to be okay. You've got to be brave.
I remember the first time I saw her just in Allenhorn. It was outside the record shop in St Vincent Street, and I'm my duffel coat and the blue glasses on, right? And I just went up and said, "Are you?" And they're putting Fallen Laughing in the window.
Oh, amazing.
And then I was saying, "Oh, I've got a fanzine. Is that your record?" Do you know what I mean? Right? And I went straight back to the house with them. Back to West Prince Street with Alan, and then they gave us all the flexies that they hadn't put in the records, and put them in the fanzine. So, like, if you kind of go. I wish I'd said hello. I mean, it's funny, there's Jim Lambie's record over there, right? I saw Jim Lambie, I was on a bus, right, and I saw him on the street, right, and I jumped off the bus just to say, "Oh, you've got a really good look." Do you know what I mean?
Really,
Right?
did
I
you?
mean, can you imagine that now?
When was that?
That was probably 1982 or 81 or
Oh,
something.
do you know,
like
I
that,
absolutely love that, because although I've admired the man from afar for so long, the first time I actually met him was not a stone's throw from here. It was at Mono one night. I think we were doing one of the Hungry Beat events, and it was you and him at the back of the pub.
Yes, that's our thing. We all used to do was stand at the back. We used to go to Tiffany's and watch all the images and the Banshees. And if you weren't at the side of the stage, you'd go right up to the very back. I remember at the Cramps concert with the Fall and the Riot and all that. Me and Jay were up the back, and we just had the greatest laugh, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just hilarious to watch. the pandemonium that was going on.
I
you
would
know?
be at the front.
You would be at the front, but then again,
I was a front
we
guy
would
then.
see. We were the 6 years.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
like,
it.
You know,
I would have been like you, Graham.
Yeah.
I would have been too keen, right? I was always right. I couldn't get close enough
I
to
want
the
to
band.
see, you know, exactly. I want to see their eyeliner.
Yeah.
You know,
Taking notes.
Yeah.
You mentioned there within that sense of community, you mentioned Johnny, I'm presuming you mean in Johnny McElhone
Yeah.
there. And one of the things I really love is we're ostensibly, who knows where this will go here to talk about the Golden Tree Project, but as soon as you start listening to it, the roots of it take it back and back in time. So one of the songs that you cover is Black Eyed Boy,
Yeah.
which you co-wrote, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get to the writing aspect
Yeah.
of it. But Johnny's at the heart of so much, and both of
Absolutely.
you, over time, with Altered Images, with Hipsway,
Yes.
with your own co-writing, he's one of these characters that just keeps on going. It's
Johnny's been in
brilliant.
3 successful
Yeah,
bands.
it's an
Yeah.
incredible achievement. I mean, Johnny's probably the secret songwriter. We do the secret
Yeah.
songwriting course, right, of Scotland. That
Yeah.
everyone knows Charlene, and I'm sure they know that Johnny does it too. But not many folk even know what Johnny looks like. If you get my drift, right?
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
He never gets in interviews on. He never gets. Here's Sunday Times special on Johnny McElhone.
Yeah.
And I always think that it's kind of insane that he doesn't. I mean, what he's done and been through, and I know I'm biased, but it is a kind of remarkable story. Claire gets it, you know.
Yeah.
Claire, you know, and she's another force of nature. But Johnny's like, he's much shyer than us in a lot, but not really. Not
in
really,
real life, he
Not in
isn't.
real life, because we go out all the time together. Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean, right?
okay.
And Johnny's great stories, but he's not a public speaker. If you get my drift, you know what I mean. Like
He's happy writing the songs, but he's in the band. He's at the
Yeah.
forefront, and
Yeah.
there is this lineage.
He does more than just write. I mean, Johnny's a great producer too. I mean,
Yeah.
but he's like he's been very good to me, you know. Like, and I think with Hipsway and things too, like the chemistry between the four of them, you know, was amazing. And the thing is, the people at the spin-offs and people Johnny's worked with, they don't stop working after they've left working together.
Yeah.
You know, and he encourages. I mean, like him and Grahame got on great. You know, there's an encouragement there and a respect there, which I think is fantastic.
It's
you know?
also that idea that anything is possible, right? And that always feels like it's been there for him. He's like, right, let's get a band, let's put it together. When did you first encounter him, Grahame?
So Johnny wasn't really, he didn't really go out that much back then. So he was just he did the music and he'd be in the band, he had a girlfriend. He wasn't let out like dogging about like most guys.
Never drank.
He didn't drink, you know, he didn't do all that stuff. So he was just really
A
focused
whole other lifestyle.
on and either, you know, being in Altered Images and then later being in Hipsway and like just enjoying himself in a different way from us, because we were like idiots.
Going for it.
Yeah.
His
So-
brother was a catalyst a lot,
Yeah.
wasn't he?
Yeah, Jerry was great as well. I mean, he kind of basically we did a demo of Broken Years, and I think it was Forbidden. It was actually us, me, Harry, and James Grant who did that, and we gave it to 2 people. Mark Wilson, who was the Bluebells manager, and Jerry McElhone. That's the 2 guys we knew in the business, and we knew them both personally anyway.
Okay.
Like, so, and so we just whoever came back first, and it was Jerry.
Is that how this came about? Literally 2
Yeah.
tapes.
Literally, that's it. And Jerry came back, and he said, because we'd been supporting Altered Images, our band at that point was called the White Savages, and we did 3 gigs with them, and that's like a little legendary thing that happened in my life anyway. And then after that, just after that, we came back and we did those demos, and Altered Images were going to break up, and that was that. I mean, we used to go and hang out in Stephen Loroni's flat, which he shared with Douglas McIntyre, who's in, you know, he's in the Bluebells now.
Exactly,
He's
I
in
know,
the band with me. You know,
He was in Jazzateers
Cowboy
back
Mouth,
in the time.
And I've been working with Stephen as well for all the image for Claire's records, you know.
So that was the quad as well. Who lived in the quad?
Claire and Elizan.
No.
Oh, you're talking about Edmund lived there, yeah.
Edwin lived there,
first.
and then
Dave
Strawberry
McClymont,
Switchblade
Strawberry
lived there.
Switchblade, yeah.
What is this quad?
Hollywood
Hollywood
Quadrant. just behind Webster's.
It's a flat,
you know.
and Pym lived there later.
Really?
Yeah, and Douglas lived there, obviously.
Clay was round the corner and the posher bit.
There's definitely some sort of, I don't know, post-punk or pop musical ley
Oh
lines
no,
there,
that should
right?
be written. I don't know why it hasn't been yet.
Okay,
There'll be
all
a
right, I'm
tour
forming
one
a
day.
plan.
Like, I mean, I know like orange juice and all that is really interesting, and of course that's what I'm interested in. But like, see all that stuff after it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much going on.
That's interesting because we were talking this other night there, right? And it's like, you know, you think about the Beatles, right? You know, like, and it was Stuart Cosgrove's film we went to see it in Perth, Cassius Sex. I didn't know that between Cassius Clay and Muhammad Ali was Cassius X, right?
Yeah.
And you're thinking, this is a space for 3 years, right? You know, right? And then same with the Beatles. The Beatles went from like, I want to hold your hand, right, to Let It Be. What was it, 5 years, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about, you know, at that time, 2 years, and already he was the new boy.
Yeah,
You know what I mean, right?
quite.
And we're talking maybe a matter of months where we're thinking, oh, like we've already moved. And in that space of time, right, same as Skin, Jerry McElhone came and got me in my house, took me to a church in Govan Hill and said, this is your band, you're supporting all the images in a week. And it sounds like it's made up, but it's 100% true, right? And then we
Who was in your band?
It was all his roadie, Cheesy, Johnny's two pals from school, and Claire's best friend Alicia was a singer, right? And he goes, you better write some songs, you've got 8 days. And then we supported the images at the Barland, and he called us the Oxfam Warriors, right?
Yeah.
And we did 3 gigs. We did 2 gigs at the Bungalow, and we did one at the art school where Alan Horn, Robert Sharp, and Edmund came down and sat in the front row at lunchtime with these hit and miss cards at jukebox tuning, right? And at the end of it, Alan Horn goes, your band are shit. They're all Neds. He says, get a new band and I'll help you, right? You know. And then when I got Ken and David First and Russell and Lawrence Donegan, he goes, they're bigger Neds than the last band. And I'm going, David's got a house with a stable.
Excuse me.
Lawrence is at Glasgow Uni.
These are posh boys.
I mean, yeah, you know, I mean, like, imagine having to explain what Neds were. They've got a balance
just
cake
wear
of salt
fade.
It takes a lot to make me laugh. Oh, you let me up the garden path. Oh, it takes a lot to make me laugh.
Everyone's a Ned to them, you know.
But it's just brilliant that it's like, just keep going. Okay, this is the next band. You're saying about White Savages, like that's the next band. And it's all the in-between bits that are actually quite fascinating. Because a lot of the time, that's when your imagination's actually being fired up. By the time you're in the studio or the record's out, that moment's passed, but they're the moments that are documented.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's true.
I mean, you can ask, like, Ken used to work in the Rock Garden with me. Next time you see him, ask him about coming back to stay with me because he couldn't get the bus home.
Is this Ken McCluskey?
Yeah.
Right, okay, noted. Okay,
Yeah.
I've forgotten my pen, but I won't forget that. But I do love that all of these stories kind of come back to life in different ways at different times. So this is a new project with the two of you. When did you start talking about the Golden Tree? We're no doubt going to go back and forward in time throughout this entire conversation.
Well,
but take us to the
yeah.
moment. Were you in the car? Is this what happened
No,
on the way back from the golf?
We were playing golf a lot together, me and Graham, but basically, I think it might have been coming back, or one time Graham just said to me, I hope you don't mind me saying this, right? I wouldn't mind making some money from my record for a change, right? And I thought, well, we could do that.
It's a hard one thing these days, by the way.
Well, I said, we can do that. We can record it all in my house. Don't get anyone else involved. You know,
Yeah.
we don't have to worry about writing songs because I'd already started covering some of these songs. I mean, I was ill, like I said before, and like I was already in that kind of like reflective
Okay.
frame of mind. I'd already recorded Reflections of My Life by I did it with Chris Deering, but then I was thinking, you know, me and Graham were talking about golf about things like Rod Stewart doing the American songwriting.
Yeah.
And how that made him, that's the one that made him a multi-millionaire.
The
was-
Johnny Cash latter stuff, right?
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
covers. It was them every year. He brought out another American songbook, and then we were coming back in the golf one day, and Grant played "Dams of Mary," right, which is one of the songs that I'd
okay.
always wanted to do, and that for me kind of cemented it. And then we'd already begun by that point, you know, working on what songs to do. I mean, I wanted
We
to
were
call it,
pitching songs at each other all the time, weren't we?
I wanted to call it the Golden Hour. I remember we used to get those,
Yeah.
the Golden Hour present.
Quite.
And then, so we were called the Golden Hour, and then I found out another band had already got the name, so we changed the name to the Golden Tree, you know.
It's got that feel about it, though. It's got the golden hour feel about it. And also, I think the Golden Tree is actually really lovely because it does take you back to the roots of the songs without stretching that arboreal illusion too much.
Well,
You know?
you've got it, because that's what it was. It's like the tree.
Yeah.
All these different instances of me, the tree, me and
Totally.
Grahame, right? Like, so.
And let's face it,
Yeah.
the leaves have turned in that particular. That's her particular
They
journey.
have turned golden,
Lucky for
man,
you
yeah.
guys, the amber and golds are my favourite colours, so it
Yeah.
speaks to me greatly. But what I love is that what you do in it is you sort of tap into our collective musical memory of a lot of these songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that take us back to family parties, or there's a Donovan track on there. So is it Catch the Wind that's on?
That was the first one.
Right.
It was Graham's. Yeah, that
Was
was the first
it?
one we did together. Yeah.
And I love that that's got such a sense of melancholy. Now, we've spoken about this before in both of your own songwriting, a sense of maybe yearning in something like
Yeah, of
Young at
course.
Heart,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
even in The Honey Thief, the light of deep regret.
Yeah.
You know, it's got a real melancholic pull to it, and that's something that's very resonant in this record. And Donovan always did it. So have you always been a fan of that particular song, Grahame?
To be honest, I wouldn't say I was like a huge Donovan fan. I knew Mellow Yellow and like Hurdy-Gurdy Man and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I just started thinking, we need to do a Donovan song.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
if
went-
you're doing Scottish songs.
Like, because like he's from Maryhill, he's not just Scottish.
I know.
I'm
Yeah.
from like,
Yeah.
you know, I grew up in various parts of Maryhill and stuff like that. So there's no way we're not doing a. And I think you suggested a song which is a great song as well, a Donovan song. But
Yeah,
I
Season of the
thought
Witch.
I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
this would suit more like what
Yeah.
our Sonic,
Catch the Wind, it's got
Sonic
that.
World.
It's got that feel about it. I had by far, even now after all these years, one of the most memorable and most weird interviews of my life with Donovan at one
I can believe
Devonshire
it.
Gardens. We had this morning together, and it was utterly bizarre. It was for the Herald. It was like a magazine piece, so we had a good amount of time. The photographer was coming in afterwards, and I sort of waited, and we had this plush room that was waiting for us. So he comes down, and I'm like sat on a chaise longue, and he's on the one opposite. And as the interview, by the way, which overran by 2 hours and not on my account, I was nearly late for being on the radio, he sort of slowly moved round from chair to chair to chair to chair until he was sat like leg to leg with me in front of me, holding my hands.
Wow.
He had drank my tea from my teacup. He had counted the chakras on my spine, and eventually I was lost for words. So we just sat there. I'll send you the article to the Herald piece. It's all in there. And we were just holding hands, and I didn't know what else to say. So I just looked back at him, and he just went, yes.
This is a very Me Too moment, isn't it?
It wasn't even being creepy. It was almost like this magical being. I thought, I'm just not going to fill the
So
air
you
with
didn't
words
feel-
Yeah.
like I usually do.
was
No,
just-
this wasn't a seduction technique. It was much more a kind of ritualistic or spiritual dance or something. It was very odd, or that's what I'm telling myself. He was brilliant. But one of the things he said, he was so desperate to reinstate and reinforce his Maryhill roots, his memories of that, his memories of being kind of brought up with polio in the rubble, which I just love because everything about his songs is yellow and golden and bright. But also the other thing he kept saying was, I just remember, he sat down and he went, I'm glad you're a woman. I was like, thanks very much. And he went, I was surrounded by women, covered in lipstick all my life. But the point was, he was talking about his musical upbringing, and it was all the mammies. He talked about the mammies and all the songs he could remember singing. And I think he even touched on a song like maybe Wild Mountain Time. And I think that's what
We
opens
did.
the album,
Yeah,
right?
well,
You cover that too.
You know, if we're talking about the past
Yeah.
and what's made you what you are and stuff, like my mother, as soon as she got up in the morning, radio on. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, right to her very last radio on as soon as she gets up. She always had like records, you know, a record collection. It wasn't like an enormous, but she had records and stuff like that. And then I'd listen to those Top of the Pops ones because she didn't even realise that they were like
Fakes.
you know, fakes, and neither did I at the
No.
time. And then, but my granny, her mother, she always played the piano. See, she played the piano in all the pubs up and down Maryhill Road, stuff like that, right? So she never bought a drink in Maryhill because she played the piano. She could play any song by ear.
And we'll all go together to the wild mountain time, all around the purple heaven. Will you go? I say go.
So, like, you ask her to play a song, she'll play it. And so that was another thing, you know, like how central music. And so, of course, when there's parties at New Year and stuff, everybody gets up and sings. Now, I was too shy to do anything like that, and I wasn't expected to. But like Bobby, I know you used to do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Was
your
yours
families
a
as well.
similar scenario?
My two songs were Walk Tall by Val Doonigan and Bachelor Boy. My dad made me sing that, you know, right, you know. But the thing about what Grahame saying there about Wild Mountain Time and Catch the Wind, they're actually the same chord sequence. You know, right,
there
right?
you go,
And the
right.
thing I
Very
like about
close,
Donovan
yeah.
I like Donovan is he's been very diminished, Donovan. You know, like, I mean,
Totally.
that film, the Bob Dylan film, really put him down. And then the Beatles, who were really influenced by Donovan massively. You have no idea how much the White Album was influenced by Donovan, teach them that guitar technique.
Yeah, the
in
finger
India.
picking.
Yeah.
Yep. John
And
Lennon. Yep.
no credit for it, you know,
Yeah.
and he actually wrote lyrics on the Beatles songs, you know, and it is a strange thing that in Scotland he's not at all revered. He's kind of like a forgotten figure. The other one we did was Jim Diamond, who, and
totally.
he died, and I remember thinking, how many people in Scotland have two #1 records?
And the other thing is,
yeah.
people know I should have known better.
Yeah.
People know Hi Ho Silver, and the absolutely brilliant I Won't Let You Down,
Yeah,
of course, with
yeah.
PhD. But I don't think anyone, or, you know, a lot of people are like, do you know that's a Scottish song?
Yeah,
Do you
and no
know who
credit
this
for it.
man
No
is?
credit for it. No
not
one
at all.
remembers Jim Diamond particularly fondly, you know. And it's like, the thing is about songwriting, I think we both get, or being in a band, is the most important thing, other than the money, is you want acclaim. It's like we
Yeah.
were talking before about confidence. You want, when you grow up unconfident, you want a pat in the back all the time. Me and Edmund talked about this a lot before. You know, you kind of want the credit as much as you want the PRS. I mean, you want people to say, that's a great song, that's a great gig. You know, I remember we worked with Elvis Costello, and Elvis said that he can remember every yawning face in the audience.
Oh my God.
You know, right? Or
Yeah.
because, but more importantly than you can remember the 10,000 people all clapping and cheering, it's the one person going,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
that gets you. Do you know what I mean? So I just keep my eyes closed because there's a lot of them at our gigs.
It's never been me.
I have to sing with my eyes closed because see if I catch somebody's eye,
Yeah.
I've lost it.
Exactly.
Is that right,
Yeah.
really?
Forget the words right away, man. Yeah.
I can't. I find it real. Though that I could do it if I was playing with Hipsway. Like I'll have to keep my eyes open because like quite a lot of time I'm jumping about.
Yeah.
But like so that's a different thing altogether. But if I'm at the microphone, I have to shut my eyes. And it helps me remember the words.
Yeah.
But I can't. I just.
But here's the thing, right? It's that brilliant persona again, in that if you see someone at the mic or on stage, I interviewed the Jesus and Mary chain recently because they've got a new book out, which incidentally is utterly fantastic.
Oh, good.
And they both came on stage at Edinburgh International Book Festival, you know, with the shades on, and then you realise it's not always arrogance or pretending to be cool, whether
Not
you've
shy.
got your eyes closed. It's shyness.
Yes.
And it's actually that sense of almost confrontation.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily want, you're up there and you want to sing, you want to play music. But it's a bit of a shield, isn't it?
Yes. It's a very important. I mean, it is a cliche, dark glasses, but there is a reason for it, you know, and it isn't just sunlight, you know.
No, it does look cool as well.
Yeah,
Works
it
both
does,
ways.
yeah.
Bobby and latterly myself do this thing called the Secret Coast Songwriting, and because I come to it later, I could see it slightly differently maybe from everybody else. And what I see it as like this kind of therapy group.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
the whole thing about being an artist for me is like you have to be quite brave to be an artist. I mean, if you're a painter or an actor or a singer or a songwriter, you're exposing yourself,
Yeah.
and it takes an act of bravery, and that's what we were talking about earlier about this making up this character. So it's a defiance, or it's an act of bravery.
Fragility there, you know, where you get, if someone puts your music down, then you could go months without writing another song again, you know, whereas if someone says, and going back to John McElhone, he's really good at it, you know, of encouraging you to do it. We've been lucky with our career, haven't we? I mean, you think of people like Elvis and people who've always come along at the right time. Dave Stewart for me was a big influence, like making you, oh, you can do this, just go there, go, well, I'm going to go to New York, I'm going and write with so-and-so, you can do it. Yeah. Right. And you find a way. Once you get on the plane, you've no choice. You're going to be doing it.
You put yourself in the spot. But again, someone like that, because he was quite instrumental in encouraging you, Dave Stewart of the Rhythmics, right? Just saying, why not? Give it a go.
He was a great songwriter too. But again, the thing about songwriting is, I think most songwriters, are happy to collaborate and are very generous because I think they realise that other songwriters have got the same mental problems that you've got, you know. I I haven't met a songwriter in my whole life who isn't hurt by criticism. You know what I mean? And then they don't go back and think, well, the money's in the bank, you know. They think, what, you know?
No, because it is that vulnerability. You know, if it's coming from an absolute place of being terrified or heartbroken, wherever that is, you know, whatever that creative well is, then of course that's going to be so personal to you that it's a lot. You mentioned the Secret Coast Songwriters thing. I think I saw that you were doing a gig at the weekend. Did you not play a Donovan song together at that as well, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a wee bit more about this, because there's now an album we can get hold of.
Yeah,
Secret Coast
again,
Songwriters.
it's been kind of like a sort of like an amazingly successful thing, and it all began because Grahame, who owned a house in Brook.
Another Grahame.
Named the rooms after all the bands. He sent me a picture of the Bluebells room, right? And I goes, oh, it's lovely. And then a few weeks later...
Is this a house? It's a secret house, obviously.
Yeah. It's
somewhere in Scotland.
Yeah, it's a house in Brook that he rents out.
You can rent out. He does rent out for weddings and things too.
Oh, brilliant, okay.
And then he said, do you want to be the in-house songwriter? Which I didn't know what meant. But I mean, I just thought, well... He said, I'll pay you. And he goes, well, basically, you're going to give me money to write a song about your house. I mean, right, you know, right?
Okay.
And I didn't want to do that. Right. And then I'd been in songwriting courses before, and I suggested, why don't you do that? You know, because I'd been to ones in France and places like, you know, and they were really good. And he made it up for it. And then I knew I couldn't do it on my own. And the first person I thought of, luckily, was James, because James
Grant.
He's a polymath, man. That guy can sing anything, play anything. He's a great songwriter. He's got a really great personality. I didn't know this at the time, but he'd already been doing things like that, you know. You know, like, because we're friends, but I hadn't been in contact much with him. And the great thing about James too is another one of those people that just says yes rather than let me think about it. I mean, so right away.
Because once you say yes, that's it, right?
Well, the thing is, you can always back out later on, you know. And then so me and him drove up to Tinnerbrook to see the house, and as soon as we saw the house, we knew it was going to work, you know. And then the first batch of people we got in, bizarrely included Rob Noakes, you know, right? One of the greatest songwriters in Scotland. I remember saying to myself,
go figure.
You know, I mean, like, you know,
talk about an utter legend over the decades.
Exactly.
Talking about undersung people as well. Donovan, absolutely, but Rob Noakes is right up there. What a guy. Hugely missed.
He was there to learn. It wasn't like he was here to show off.
That's wild.
You know? And what he brought really elevated the whole... Yeah. And the people who came in were great. There's a young guy called Jamie Scott came along, who I'd met at golfing as well, golf again, and he'd caddied for me. Okay. And now he's signed a publishing deal. He's got records out that are going to be hits.
Brilliant.
He's singing. So and then we've got Alison Craig, who's just signed up, you know.
Oh, listen, I love that. So I adore Alison Craig, right? Yeah. When I was at school, I used to listen to... I was mainly a Radio Clyde aficionado, because I lived in Stirling, so you have to pick your city, right?
Yeah.
And I was like Glasgow all the way because of you guys, because of all the Glasgow bands. It was like, that's it, I'm Glasgow. I'll move to Glasgow, get my Glasgow accent. It's my phone, I'm chucking it away. I don't even care. But on a Friday... when I got in from school, I would listen to Radio Forth because it was the Zoo Crew. So it was Alison Craig and John Wood, and I absolutely loved them. Yeah. So a long time ago now, late one night, she must have put something on Twitter, and I thought, I've never told her, like, I've never met her. I still haven't met her. And I sent her this basically love letter. It was maybe a year ago, maybe two, just saying how amazing I thought she was. And thank God she didn't get too freaked out, and she sent me a lovely message back. But as part of it, she said, listen, I might have something musical to tell you about soon. Something's happened that I didn't expect, and it's really exciting. And it's part of all this, right?
Yeah.
It's opened up this completely
She's
creative...
been to LA, New
Yeah,
York, and she's
I
got,
know.
I mean...
We love you, Alison.
Yeah, and her songs are great. I mean, she's a really good songwriter, a really good singer,
Isn't that
and a really
brilliant?
good keyboard player. You know,
Yeah.
and I didn't know she'd been in bands before a little bit as well. You know, so that's the thing about this. And there's no other songwriting course I can think of that's actually got a record out now. Again, thanks to Last Night from Glasgow. Again, another massive influence on what's happening in Glasgow again now.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I think that. These people don't seem to get the credit.
I don't think
that
they get
deserve.
any credit
I know.
hardly at all. Last
Yeah,
night from
and they've
Glasgow.
totally reinvigorated, single-handedly, I would say, the music scene in Scotland. You know,
And particularly actual physical
Exactly.
records,
Yeah.
which
Exactly.
is so brilliant. Obviously, they've got the record shop, they've got the Big Blue, but putting out vinyl and something like this, the Secret Coast Songwriters, is just so lovely. And I do love the fact as well, it's like absolutely brilliant. If you can do it when you're a teenager, that was absolutely you guys, and get down the front
Yeah.
and hang about with your pals and make music. Amazing. But I do also like the idea that it's never too late.
Well, Nicholas,
Songwriting can work at any age,
Nicola,
right?
it's really
It's
important. I mean, John Peel and all the DJs, and you talk about, you know, the radio in the past. I didn't know what age people were.
Yeah.
We didn't know how young.
You didn't
I
know
knew
Ivor
about-
Cutler
you
was
didn't-
like
you
middle
didn't-
aged or
yeah.
whatever.
Can you imagine Ivor Cutler
Didn't
now?
matter.
If you brought a record out now, no one would. People would say, "All right," you know, it
Never.
would just be totally ignored. Irish Champ are probably the best example, at least that they're getting something right, because how can they get worse?
Yeah.
How can we get worse? How can Teenage Fan Club get worse? You can't.
No,
You're going to get
it's so
better
true.
and better and better. you
And the
know?
other thing is you have to keep it alive. So what I love is the fact that hopefully we won't need to wait as long for another Bluebells
Well,
album.
we start in April, you know.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's happening. But also things come back around. So the Cowboy Mouth now, it's
I
like,
know.
isn't that brilliant? So tell us a bit about like how that came back around, because you're playing at Frets.
We're playing Frets, and we did. We were releasing Last Night from Glasgow was releasing the first album on vinyl because it only came out in CD.
Yeah.
And so we thought we'll play the album and see how that goes. And the guys who we were playing with, are two guys that Douglas McIntyre went to school with out in Straven, and like one of them, Lockie, who's the bass player, he was in the White Savages, like who
no
I mentioned
way.
earlier,
So
and
it
went
goes
down
right
to
back. How
you know,
lovely.
play in London and stuff like that with Altered Images. So I knew him from 40 years ago, and this other guy, the drummer, is also called Doogie. It's just they're a brilliant rhythm section, and I just thought I want to play with these guys all the time.
Yeah.
So we decided to reinstate the band and write a new album. So and it came really easily as well.
Really?
It's brilliant. Yeah.
It's
I think
finding
it's
it
one
at
of
the
Graham's
right
best
time.
albums, by the way. I mean, I've heard it, and it's funny to see Graham so comfortable in a band, you know, and to have choruses.
Like a fault line underground. It's too late when I found my world turned upside down. My confidence subsided. I really didn't need any reminding. Even though the light was blinding, yeah, I was.
But that's a brilliant thing as well. Like, as time goes on, you have different types of songwriting. Or we've spoken in the past, Graham, about the different influences that have come into different bands you were playing with. So whether that was with Jazzateers, where you had the kind of post-punk thing, or Hipsway's bringing in more soul maybe and funk, or what you're doing with the Cowboy Mouth. There's room for all of it. But one of the things I remember you saying was you were, I think it was with the Skinner group back in the Horse, whenever that was, probably more years ago than I can
10
care
years
to
ago.
imagine, right? And you were touring it, and you said, you know, as part of that, I've been doing acoustic stuff, so I've had to learn the Honey Thief and some Hipsway songs on acoustic guitar. And you're like, now I've done that, I realise it's a folk song.
Yes.
You can play it like a folk
Very
song.
Right.
good,
You
yeah.
can play Honey Thief like an old
Yeah.
blues song.
Yeah. You learn more about the song. So something like Chelsea Girl,
Yeah.
on the Golden Tree, Simple Minds, of course, which is
Yeah.
a bit of a glam rock
Yeah.
stomp originally. You've got a different interpretation of it because the songs are so strong, and this goes back
Yeah.
to songwriting, Bobby, doesn't it?
It does.
You can pull them in all sorts of directions. We still know what they are.
Well, it was a big thing for us. It's like we tried to approach it. Imagine we'd written those songs and they'd never
Yeah.
been recorded. A big influence on it for me was a record called Rainy Day. It was done by Grahame Skinner. It was Bangles and not the Bangles. What's the other girl group called again? Oh, it was the Bangles.
I'm wearing a Bangles
yeah,
t-shirt.
The LA kind of
Everything's connected.
LA underground scene, Paisley underground scene, and they covered all these songs. And one of the covers they did was a song by Nicola that Bob Dylan had written, I'll Keep It By Mine, right? And John Cale did the strings. So I was kind of like thinking, right, if we did every song with the same sound, just a cello, strings, viola, no drums,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I did all the keyboards, and I can't even play keyboards, so that was a process in itself, and it kind of simplified all the songs. But I learned how to cheat that, you know. I did the chords, and then I realised I could just free form over the chords, and it was something like a real piano player playing it. You
It's
know,
like Rick Wakeman in here.
Do you know, like,
yeah.
not sonically,
Yeah.
but I think it's one of the most punk rock things that I've ever done, and I would
Yeah, yeah.
assume it's the same for
The
Bobby.
Golden
because-
Tree, the
because
approach.
it's
Yeah.
just the two of us. You know, Bobby designs the sleeve and all that. Like, it's all right. We're the only two people who have anything whatsoever to do with it.
Who played the viola?
I did it, but again. Thing is, I found a
the
real.
strings are gorgeous.
Yeah, but you got to
Strings,
understand how it
quote-unquote.
works in technology, right? Is like see on the guitar, right? If you're playing a melody, right, which is the string part, then it's pretty easy to do those notes on the piano, right? So to play the melody, but then technology is so great that now you can set your keyboard in the key and you can't hit a wrong note.
Yeah.
Right, you know, right? Which
I
is-
don't know how to do that.
it's astonishing, to be honest, man, right? So no matter where you played it on the keyboards, you're not going to hit the wrong note. But even better than that is if you just do 4 bars and you play it wrong, you just move the note up and down on the screen, and it's in the right place, and then you do all this stuff that puts it all in time.
Yeah.
So but it's very time, but I learnt a lot. It's very time consuming, but it's very, 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 very satisfying, right?
Yeah.
And then the creme de la creme in the whole process, as Grahame knows, is his voice, right? So as we went on, we realised the less we had on it,
Yeah.
the better that it sounded, you know. So I went from doing 20 tracks, and then we're probably down to 4 or 5. And that's a great process as well, you know.
Yeah, tearing it out.
We've both sort of learned how to use the
Logic,
the technology by doing projects. I sort of learned it doing another thing, which is like just copying a Frank Sinatra album,
Yeah, okay.
but not copying it, making it. I made it my own, as they used to say in the
Yeah.
X Factor.
Yeah.
But and then Bobby ended up doing the same
Yeah.
thing on this.
And
so-
now he's done the Cowboy Mouth record in a studio with the band all playing live, right? And we're going to do that with the Bluebells, because in the last Bluebells album, I did a lot of it at home as well, right?
Okay.
And now, because I've done it, I just want to get back to plugging my guitar in and getting Mick Slavin and Campbell Owen and Douglas.
Getting the band back together.
And doing it. And I want to do the Beatles thing where you do 10 takes of the song, you know, and you pick the best one. And, you know,
Yeah.
I want to, and because that's a really great thing too. I mean, the COVID illness kind of like phase, I want to get out of that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I want to
quite.
get,
Be back in a room with people.
Yeah,
I think that's it.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
the luxury, if you like, of that, which
Yeah, yeah.
you know, was always maybe
I
taken
mean, that's
for
like
granted a bit.
one of the we went out to a place called Beetroot, which is in Airdrie, and it's a guy called Stuart McLeod who was in a band called Wild River Apples.
I
Yeah,
can't wait
and-
for heaven.
Yeah.
I have it on 7-inch.
His missus is really brilliant as well.
Really?
Louise Connell.
I'm trying to remember. I've got their second single as well. But anyway, I am
So
listening,
like,
Grahame. Really?
yeah,
Okay.
she's so talented, and he's a brilliant musician as well. But he runs a studio, and we recorded that all the backing tracks in 2 days,
Yeah.
Really?
and then we just did it at weekends.
I just
So-
want you guys to be aware, and
confirm that I didn't just look at my phone, but I remembered the second Wild River Apples single. It was called Out of Reach.
Well done. Well done.
I don't know what's going on with my brain.
Those Wild
They
River
did it on
Apples are quite hard to get.
They did it on a Billy Sloan session, which I've got on a tape somewhere. So yeah, I loved them.
Yeah,
That's
they were.
amazing. I love
Gwen,
that. All the
what a-
songs are there somewhere, right?
What a
It's
great singer she
brilliant.
is, Gwen. I love her.
I love how many times golf has been touched upon, right? So
Yeah.
here's the thing. What is it with Scottish pop and golf? Because obviously you guys, that's at the root a little bit of this, along with Grant Stott's Vinyl Collective on your
Yeah.
drive home. Lawrence Donegan, of course. Lloyd
Yeah.
Cole, big
Yeah.
golfers.
Yeah.
What's that about?
I think it's to do. I think it when you're a
Time in your
songwriter-
hands.
Yeah, but I think what it gives you, right? I'll tell you what golf gives me. I think Graham's probably on the same wavelength, right? I hate walking.
Right,
Right.
okay.
So I'm out in these beautiful places,
Uh-huh.
right? And you're walking, right? And you're talking to your friends, and your head is clear, right?
Yeah.
And it's quite a. It's like almost like
It's
a
good
therapy.
medicine, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you kind of like you get inspired. You know, when you go home, even the drive home is great. You listen to music together. And it's what we've missed from being all in families now. We don't go into people's houses and put on records together. And I remember I used to sit in my house, right, 6 of us with headphones on, listening to Deep Purple and Rockman, right, you know, right. And I couldn't imagine doing it now, but it was a fantastic thing to do when you're 14, 13, you know,
course,
like, you know, and then, you know, so that camaraderie, golf has got that.
I remember it well, I was feeling so blue. So I said to my dad, what's your boy gonna do? Then he told me, he looked me straight in the eye. He said this world is a sham, you have to do what you can. It's always spinning around, it's always dragging us down. You gotta work hard and keep your head high. It's up and it's down, but for once in your life you gotta let it go. Oh, my daddy was an engineer. He said, son, life can be so unfair.
Let's go and have a wander around. We're in street level Photoworks, which is perfect because the last time I saw you, Bobby,
Yeah.
was in Stirling, and
That's
it was part
right.
of the Harry Papadopoulos exhibition, which started here. You were starring in it.
Yeah.
What a guy! What photographs! Eh?
Well, Harry was a big in for me into the music scene. Harry lived down the corner from me, and I was already beginning to venture into it. But Harry and me used to get the bus into town and then get the bus back.
Yeah.
And then when I was starting the fanzine, I did it with Robert Sharp, who was a really good friend of Harry's. And Harry did some pictures for us as well, I think. But Harry was like a level above. He was already doing sounds in NME.
Yeah.
So he was a big influence in me learning how to blag into gigs, you know. Like, you know,
A skill in
I work for
itself.
NME. I've got on fancies and all that. And I'm like, the thing is, no one would argue with you.
Nah.
They would just say, on you go.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
quite.
so you had no way of
Fake confidence.
A card. I mean, you can make up a false card 2 seconds anyway, you know.
Yeah. But I mean, creating that visual identity of the sound of young Scotland, you know, Altered Images
Yeah,
and Orange
yeah.
Juice and Aztec Camera and you guys. It's brilliant to still see these pictures.
Well, the thing is, no one had cameras back then, so
Yeah.
people like Harry and Robert, you know, and obviously Peter, who was doing most of the postcards, seeing people like that, and there's maybe 4 or 5 people taking pictures, and without that, you wouldn't have had a record of these things.
Yeah.
No one, there's no phones.
No, exactly. It's crazy to think, isn't it? But
Yeah.
we spoke at the time, Bobby, about seeing yourself as a band for the first time. What was it like when you would see Hipsway, the perception, if you like, from the fans' eye view of you as Skin, this front man on top of the pops and in the
Yeah.
magazines, a heartthrob, let's face
Oh
it.
boy, did he milk it! By the way, man.
I think the weirdest thing is seeing yourself doing things like, you know, dancing and stuff in videos and things like
Okay.
that. Was like, that's how I move, right? You know, but yeah, and of course, you know, we're talking about. Like, I mean, I grew up quite shy, although I learned to make friends. But like, I was always self-conscious because I'm tall,
Okay.
and I don't know if you've noticed, but like, well, back then, tall people were kind of slightly freakish.
Well, and us Scottish folk tend not to be on the tall
Yeah.
side.
So I
Especially
wa-
if you're from Stirling
I
or
was-
Alloa,
yeah.
speaking as one of them.
Nearly always the tallest guy, I mean, more or less. So, so that kind of made me feel a bit and I always used to sort of crouch over to try to either hear what other people were saying or just to
Blend in.
To blend in a wee bit. Do you know what I mean? I mean, the weird thing is when I played football, I was a complete and utter animal.
Yeah, okay.
That was
On the field.
that was another thing where,
Yeah.
you know, you're a different personality. Like, or if I went to a football match, indeed, like, I'd get really caught up and be quite vocal. But then in other circumstances, be quite quiet. I know I don't sound very quiet right now, but, you know.
But all of that's practice, right?
Yeah.
It really is that aspect of it. I remember the first time, or one of the first times I met you, I think when we started, I got to know you a bit, was when it was around about Triptych. So you were working, were you driving some of the bands?
I drove a Detta, which was incredible.
Yeah.
I drove Terry Riley. I mean, some of the people I met in that thing, and Candi Staton.
Candi Staton, when she came to Scotland, was that first time? So
And
Ken McCluskey drove Laurie Anderson.
That's right, yeah.
She
yeah,
asked
yeah,
for him
yeah,
the
yeah.
second time.
And also he did that really famous
Karl-Heinz Stockhausen.
Stockhausen.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's ridiculous, right?
Amazing.
And
But
the
it
only reason I
became so
did that is because I
normal.
was walking up the road and I met Ken.
Yeah.
And he said, do
Ken
you want to do this?
McCluskey?
He
Did
said,
he?
we need another driver. I was like, I'm not for that.
We would have these mad nights on the Renfrew ferry where we would
That's
be
right.
at Candi Staton, the first time she'd ever come to Scotland. This was 2005, I think. And she took a bit of convincing to come over because she was like, will anybody come? And she played the Renfrew ferry, the Liquid Rooms, and I think the tunnels in Glasgow. And of course, the tickets went like that.
That was
But
fantastic.
the gig on the Renfrew ferry, it was unbelievable. A Sunday night, the sun was just going down. It was late April. A Young Hearts Run Free. I thought we were going to sink the ship.
Yeah, no, it was brilliant.
Wasn't it
She
great?
was so
But it
cool.
became
What
such-
a brilliant person.
It became such a kind of regular conversation. Oh, how's Odetta? Did you get her to the tramway okay? Or Prince Buster and his wife in her slippers going up Sauchiehall Street looking for Buckfast.
I took, I got, Odetta wanted to go shopping. She's like 80 odd, right? And so I got my wife was working for Topshop at the time. She's like an area manager for Topshop. So she'd be working, but her sister had just come back from Japan. So she took her and they went for what they had, like a private shopper thing experience.
Topshop?
In Topshop. So you sit in a
Fantastic,
room
man.
and the woman, a girl or a woman or whatever, who
Bring
worked
her
there
clothes
would
out.
bring clothes in for her to try. And they'd sit and drink champagne and all this stuff.
This
and then
is brilliant.
we all went for tapas after it. And this was our day off. And then like one time I had to take her through to Edinburgh and like to do a talk, and I was like the translator for the people asking her questions. So somebody would be like, you know, I don't know, but are you a big fan of Jelly Morton, eh? Or something like that, and I'd say, he wants to know if you like Jelly Morton or Jelly Roll Morton or whatever. And then when we drove back, we had this really like quite intense conversation. She said, like, I gave up my relationships for my art.
Wow.
You know, it's like I never had a real like strong relationship. I never got married because I wanted to be an artist.
I remember her playing Something Inside So Strong at the tramway. I think she played the Queen's Hall as well, but at the tramway it was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Exactly, yeah.
There was nobody like her. The fact that she had a private shopping session in
She was
Topshop.
so like, you know, mighty. You know, she's like,
Oh, yeah.
she's a frail woman, but like you would
Oh,
not
yeah.
mess with her.
No.
And James
She bought
Blood,
pop socks.
James
Yeah.
Bloodoma,
Totally.
who I only knew from like being in an NME. Remember those
Yeah.
cassettes they used to give away? So I remember he had a track on that, and that's how I knew his name. And he was like flirting with her all the time and trying to get off her and all that. I'm like, he's like 70 or something, and she's like
fantastic,
80 odd, and she's like, she was knocking him down, and he kept trying to get and they're going, oh woman, you know,
What a
like
woman.
why don't you like me, woman? And she's like, she's just like
Yeah.
slapping them. It was dead funny.
Yeah.
They were loving it, you know.
It was a brilliant time though, or Grace Jones just rocking up at Park Circus because that was where the office was for Triptych.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was it, you know. Getting Laurie Anderson across the town, or
The ferry
getting
was
Candi
on. He had the
Staton.
ferry, didn't he? And
Yeah.
Bobby Parsons had his nights in there, and we put me and Alan Horn put on Jonathan Richmond there. I remember
Oh,
that, and I
a
remember
great
the
place.
fall. We would see the fall at the ferry as well, man. He didn't go. He stayed in the. He wouldn't go to the dressing room. I think he sang from in there.
It would still be brilliant, wouldn't
Well,
it?
aye.
It would still be absolutely
Yeah.
perfect. So we've got the Golden Tree Volume 1, okay, but there's going to be a Volume 2
finished.
coming
It's
out,
finished
right?
now.
It's coming out on
Christmas
Christmas Day, is that
Yeah.
right? Okay.
We're trying not to repeat the same songwriters each time, so
Yeah, sure.
this is quite a different. The songs that we've sourced as Scottish, you know, like and a few that we might not probably won't end. We try things like Vienna and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
and Calvin Harris,
Okay.
and actually to do those songs goes back to what you said before about Hipsway being a folk song.
Yeah.
You know, Calvin Harris, you know, We Found Love, right? There's a fantastic version of two young Irish boys I saw on a YouTube singing this in the street. The boy's busking and the man's holding a cap, right?
Yeah.
And he's just playing the chords. It's 4 chords and it's the easiest song in the world to play, right? And the wee boy's singing it while holding the cap, right? It just sounded like an Irish song,
Yeah.
right? You know, right? And I thought, well, let's do it that way. So you don't need all the drums and all the
No.
breakdowns and, you know, like, and the hands up in the air bit. And so that might be on the next album.
Oh, amazing.
And I quite fancy doing people like the Time Frequency and things like that.
I would
you know,
love that, because, again,
much
there's-
maligned people, you know.
Completely, and it goes back weirdly, I think, to that sense of us absolutely loving a party in Scotland, but it's a bit like that bit where you've got one hand in the air and the other one you're kind of crying slightly. It's like that
Yeah.
crying on the dance floor thing,
Yeah.
that melancholy. And I think, honestly, even in a lot of those rave songs,
Yeah.
TTF in particular,
I couldn't
it's
give you
there,
more.
right?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
emotion's there.
The emotion's
and,
there.
And the thing is, the singing on it, she does sing it really great. But there's the other songs that I think about Scotland is, I think, you know, and not just Scotland, Liverpool and Manchester too, people weren't interested in cool.
Yeah.
You know, like 10 guitars and One Day at a Time speeches. I wish that was a Scottish song.
Yeah,
Because I think
okay.
he would sing that fantastic,
would
you
as
know.
well.
But the thing is that it doesn't matter. You know, people dismiss songs. I mean, for a long time I was really embarrassed by Young at Heart, to my shame, when it was number one in the charts. After Marty Pell, we had the same conversation one night about how been number one for such a long time. Remember, people were writing things like, "Oh, this song drives me nuts. It's cheesy. You know, I hate it, and it's the most annoying song in the world." And then once you kind of get past that, one of the first people to do that was Stephen Pastel. When Stephen would really help the Bluebells get back to where we came from.
Okay.
His kind of like re-acknowledgement of history. You know, we weren't
yeah,
what you think they were.
you weren't just that song.
Yeah. And also that song, if it'd been another, if it hadn't been a hit, people would go, "That's a great song." It's a very Bob Dylan, "I Want You" kind of thing, right? You know. And then one time I mentioned in Twitter once that the original person we wanted to play the violin was the girl from Dexys, you know, right? And
Helen
she,
O'Hara.
Yeah, and she wrote back saying, "I wish I'd known that at the time." And then she ended up playing with us in London last
I know,
gig.
because I interviewed her
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
told her, and
then
she
you-
was
right.
like, "What?
And
I didn't."
It's fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
it was you. That's so you started this.
See
of
how it all
course.
ties
It's
up?
my
Yeah,
fault.
it was your
I told
fault.
her on the radio.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then that gave
'Cause
me
you
a
told
lot,
me
a
when
lot
I
of
was-
confidence. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean, like, you know, to think. And then people were being really, really nice about it again. So you kind of like got your confidence back about it.
Yeah.
And then Ken and David doing that thing a few weeks ago at Kelvin Grove really meant a lot to me, man. You know, and like I was playing golf that day with you. But
Everything's connected.
I'm kind of glad I wasn't there, because
Yeah.
to see them doing it without me was really inspiring, you know.
And that's the thing, the song can have so many lives, and maybe
Yes.
if you weren't entirely comfortable
Yeah.
about that at one point, just because it means so much to so many people,
well,
but
see,
you can lose sight of that.
And going on that strand, I now want to do Long White Car, right? Me singing it on the Golden
okay,
Tree.
right.
I want Young at Heart.
Brilliant.
And let him do it,
Uh-huh.
because he did what he did with Heaven and things like that. You interpret. Let me do Long White Car, and you do that.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
and let's see
absolutely, and have it.
where we get. Yeah, because I
each
mean,
other's
imagine
songs.
if you'd written Young at Heart, I wonder how you would have done it.
Yeah,
And if
quite.
I'd written Long White Car, how would I have done it? You know what I mean? You
That's
know,
so interesting. And the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, yes.
To quote the great
exactly.
Edwin Collins, in
Exactly.
fact. So there
Yeah,
you go,
yeah.
full circle
Exactly,
yet again.
yeah.
Right, I've got a proposition, and it is that we wind this up,
Okay.
and we go and play darts, and I buy you a pint.
Yay!
Because I can't play golf.
Maybe not the darts, but we can play darts.
Sterling, come
All
on.
right.
No, we'll go a bit closer. Anyway, thank you so much. It's
No,
lovely
thank
to
you,
chat.
Nicola.
Come
Thank
back
you
on
so
soon
much.
though, because
Thank
we've
you.
only just started, right? Graham's not saying anything.
It was a pleasure.
That was the script. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to Street Level as well.
K